And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect when some people on Facebook decided that they were going to use Facebook the way they wanted to, which was to post whatever it is that they felt was fun, even if it was factually lacking. And my fun with Facebook was to correct such problems, which they thought was dealing with it wrong. Part of this is also to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm known as Shujin Tribble all over the place. You can find me under most social media under that. I was born to a Roman Catholic family in Brooklyn, New York, raised on Long Island. I currently reside outside of very cold Buffalo, New York, and I'm an unabashed atheist. We're going to have a fun time tonight. We've already got stuff going on, so I'll explain all about it in just a few minutes. Let me get everything started. Over on the left side of the continent, good evening, Dallin.
Good evening, everyone. Online, known as Dallin. I was born and raised to a Lutheran family, although religion was not a very big part of my life. It was more the go on Sunday where you best see those friends that you never see any other time of the week. One thing my parents always did instill in me was to always ask questions, never stop learning, and above all, keep an open mind. And that has served me very well in my personal and professional life thus far. And up until recently, I was a very live and let live kind of guy until the village idiots, read fundamentalists, the people that I never really was told to ever take seriously, started being taken seriously, especially south of the border. And when I saw the kind of harm they were doing, I realized it was time to take a stand, and I stand on the side of rationality, reason, and atheism.
Moving to the right, over to the east seaboard, just north of me, over into Canada. Good morning, Heretic Woman.
Good morning. So I am over in Ontario, Canada, where it is really freaking cold right now, let me just say. Started out in the United Church of Canada, which is pretty liberal as far as churches go, but my stupid teenager trick was to join a Calvinist sect, which I really don't recommend. They're not very fun people, let me say. But I figured it all out not too long afterwards, and I've now been an atheist for almost 27 years, and I spend my time trying to inject reason into the world and standing up to religious idiots wherever they crop up, which is usually Facebook and or Twitter, and making things as much of a challenge as I can, and they usually just get fed up and block me.
Did you have to say inject? Thanks.
Sorry. Hey, you're talking to the woman that takes 3 needles a day, so bite me.
All right. And I retract it.
Moving to the Midwest of the U.S. Good morning, or actually for you, good evening, Brigid.
Good evening. I'm Brigid Fitch. I was born and raised in the South and currently live in the Midwest. I was raised in the Church of Christ, which most people are not familiar with Church of Christ, but it's kind of very cultish, very fundamentalist. I got out in about 2003 after some religious drama that we won't go into. I used to be a live and let live kind of a, people believe their own thing and do their own thing until I started having problems, with the theocrats pushing these crazy laws where I live. Like Nolan said, seeing what's going on down south from him got him concerned. I started seeing it on a local level and started fighting back, and so I became somewhat of a reluctant activist, and if I don't fight back, then who will?
Moving to the right, below me, just south into Pittsburgh. Good morning, Joey.
Morning, everybody. Name's Joe. I was born to an Irish Catholic family in Chicago, Illinois. I spent 8 years in the United States military, and I am now living in Pittsburgh as a designer and skeptic.
Continuing off to the right, into the shadow of the capital. Good morning, Unrenewed Tech.
Good morning. My name is Unrenewed Tech. I'm the goofy bastard comic relief of the show. No, just kidding. I was born to a mixed religious background, and so one side of my family was Jewish and the other side was Catholic. And so I had an interesting upbringing with different different ceremonies, different ways of thought. I was always encouraged to think for myself. I was encouraged to ask a lot of questions. And one of the other things that definitely was important was the fact that not only my folks, but my school system taught us how to find out, how to discover knowledge. So yes, I actually know how to use a card catalog. As I was growing up and tried the different religions, I also ended up at one point becoming a born-again Christian, as well as studying other things like Hinduism and Taoism and Taoism. And after a long series of steps, I eventually came to the realization it was all full of shit.
Moving across the pond over to England. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Regina. It's Chris here. I'm based in the northwest of England, where I work in tech support. I was raised nominally Catholic, but it never really took. And like Dallin and some others, I pretty much let things slide and be live and let live until I started seeing the harm being done by various forms of irrationality.
And moving south through the channel over into France. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning. My name's Joseph, originally from London, Ontario, Canada, and I moved over here to France, Paris, France, in 1989. I've been living here happily ever since. I'm just doing all I can to get humans to learn how to survive for themselves in the world around them and stop relying on idiots who don't know how to survive for themselves.
Okay. So, folks that are watching live, of course, you will notice that we have we have a guest host, of course, this evening. I'd like to introduce everybody to someone that I feel very comfortable and very intimidated by simultaneously. I'd like to thank and good morning, Dr. Samuel Conway. Welcome.
Well, good morning. Very, very early morning, I might say. Thank you for having me on the show. Since we're doing introductions here, I'm Dr. Samuel Conway. I am a professional scientist, a man of learning, a man of letters. I don't really get into arguments with people over religion. I guess I'm still the sort of live and let live sort of guy. Let's face it, I'm about twice as old as most people who are doing this podcast thing you kids always talk about. So I pretty much come to the conclusion that I'll try to teach people what I know. If they don't want to learn, I'll move on to the next one. Why waste my time?
Fair enough. So for all of you that are watching live, of course, please, by all means, take advantage of the question and answers here on the Google Hangouts. We're more than happy to answer stuff for you. Of course, right away, Katie, thank you very much. Yes, the Crap Crew is here, and yeah, full house is really nice. If you are watching live, if you would rather send off a tweet to us, please, by all means, feel free. You send it over to @HolyCrapTV. If you're watching after the fact or listening via the podcast, which Dallin has been very good about, thank you so much, you can go ahead and send us an email at any time, podcast@holycrapthevlogcast.com. We got stuff that we're going to end up talking about that's going to take us down an area that's interesting for me especially, but before we get to that really quickly, with apologies to Noah Heath and Lucinda from The Scathing Atheist, let me throw your 5-minute freestyle right now. Now this one's going to be a twofer, and I'm going to probably come in under the wire. I titled this one, Every Freaking Time. I'm really sick and tired of this stuff. You remember I said that people were posting stuff on Facebook and it was wrong, and I corrected them and they didn't like that? Well, every freaking time. And now this time, what is it that I've got to look forward to? Freaking politics. Somebody went ahead and posted a picture that had been doctored of a couple of political people, and I'm using the term very loosely. You'll see why. On one side was Hillary Clinton. No, I'm not saying bad things about her. I'm leaving my political leanings completely aside for the moment. But it was doctored to show that she was shaking hands with Osama bin Laden. Now, as some of us might know, this would be somebody who is reviled, is probably the nicest way I can put it, probably as reviled here in the U.S. as Hitler, perhaps, in some circles.
Do not say that about Hillary Clinton.
Yes, I understand. However, the fact is it was a doctored picture. You want to go ahead and you want to put your political leanings out there, that's fine. I got no problem with that. Do it to your heart's content, as a matter of fact. However, putting somebody like this would be analogous to saying, hey, look at this. How about we've got a picture of Bernie along with Hitler? That would go over great, right? A Jew and Hitler. Why not? What's the worst that can happen here? You know what? That's disgusting. It's just absolutely revolting, and you shouldn't do it. Because if you want to go ahead and you want to make your political leanings, fine, go right ahead. But why don't you go ahead and just use something that's, I don't know, legitimate, something that's factual. And what happened was, after I called this guy out on it and basically said, why don't you just post something that's factual, or better yet, take this one down entirely. Because it's revolting, it's disgusting. Nobody should be giving that SOB the time of day or any screen time whatsoever. And for the record, I'm talking about Osama bin Laden. So instead of that, he decided he was going to post a couple of things that were more against other stuff, against Bernie, against a couple of other candidates. And then doctored the original post to say, oh guys, totes just having fun here, ha ha ha, it's just for a laugh, nobody needs to get upset now. All I could do was just post, really? Really? I call you out on this, I tell you to just go ahead and post stuff that's like factual instead of, making a bad situation worse and just stirring up the pot just because it's fun to stir up the pot because of ideology? You know what? When you're ready to go ahead and join the rest of us that are going to use actual facts, I'll be more than happy to rejoin you at that point. In the meantime, try to find your way. In the meantime, I wish you well on that journey of trying to find your way. And I unfriended. Why? Because I don't need that shit. Yeah, I said it. Tough. And what's the twofer part? Every freaking time? How annoying is it that we have to go ahead and we have to deal with yet another group of people coming out yet again and saying, wow, we spent a lot of money for a lot of time and look at what we've got to show for it. People coming out there with their graphs and their slides of their information, calling a press conference and having all these people get together just to show something that we've known about for 100 years. Talking about the announcement that they detected from the LIGO array gravity waves. People, after only a day after this announcement, have been saying this is a shoo-in for the Nobel Prize. How amazing is this? You have no idea. I have no idea. This is amazing. Confirmation of stuff that Einstein had postulated 100 years ago and mathematically said, yep, this is how it's supposed to be. And yet again, right on the money, spot on. The worst part about it is the Nobel Committee's got to try to narrow down 3 pages of names to try to find out who they're going to give the award to if they go with this, and how could they not? Dr. Faraday was asked, the idea that you can get an electrical current by passing a magnet through a coil of wire, what possible use is this going to be, sir? You know what he said? I don't know. But it's not for me to find out. We'll let other people figure it out. Let them decide what they're going to do with it. Me, I just found out that it happens. This is episode number 102 on the docket, Your Honor. Inconceivable. Because, well, it just stuck in my head, and there's a good damned reason for it. Before we get started with everything really quickly, Heretic Woman, we know where it's going at this point. What is the latest word on Raif Badawi?
Still in jail. Nothing new of late.
Which is a little annoying, but at the same time, there's something to be said for consistency. As of the recording of this show, it has now been 3 years, 7 months, 28 days since Raif Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crime, and our thoughts and hopes are still with you. So, really quickly, let's get everybody up to speed. Dr. Conway, I can of course call you Dr. Conway because I asked you about this ahead of time.
A lot of people do. It's okay.
Which is fortunate. Yes, I have my own bottle of wine over here, which I have just decanted. It was out the front of my house because it is Barking ass cold, I believe, is the technical term for it. And it was quicker to chill it that way.
Oh,
It's white
well,
wine.
cheers then.
Cheers.
Yay.
Fist bump.
So the videos that you had produced just this within the last 10 days or so, you had put them up, and they caught my attention in a very large way. The first one was titled, let me find it over here. The first one was "The Truth About Molecular Hydrogen Tablets." Could you just give a real quick synopsis of what that was and why it was? But not how it relates to the final.
Well, somebody had pointed me to a video online. It was this very, very charming lady whose name is Zen Honeycutt, a good Irish name there. Mrs. Honeycutt she had been recently talking with a gentleman from, I believe it's called the Molecular Hydrogen Institute. And he had told her all these wondrous things about molecular hydrogen, and she went on to say, and it was about the point that she said, we're not talking big hydrogen, the stuff that blows up blimps and stuff. We're talking small hydrogen. But I said, oh, I can't let this go. This is
I don't think anybody could let that one go.
I didn't know there was more than one type of hydrogen. You know?
There is. There's the big hydrogen that blows up blimps and stuff, and then there's the small hydrogen, the tiny hydrogen that it like cures hangovers and autism and gout and gives you a 12-inch. Amazing stuff.
Wait, tell me more about how
available, because you can drop this little tablet in water and it will hydrogenate the water, and you drink it and you become full of hydrogen, and you don't burp or anything, and then it fixes all sorts of oxidative things, because as we know, oxygen is bad in the body. We shouldn't breathe it. So
yes, because we see what it does to iron. Of course, we don't.
I wanted to make a rebuttal video, but as I started to get ready to make the video, I thought, okay, I could throw out a lot of science. I could throw out facts. I could try to rebut science does, and I got to thinking that won't work. These people don't believe science.
Don't lead the bit too far, you know.
Sorry?
Don't lead the bit too far, because there's the third video that ties it all together.
Oh, well, okay.
Okay.
I decided that what I would do is I would rebut their science with science that is equally valid as theirs. So I consumed a very large amount of my favorite alcoholic beverage, and I sat down in front of the camera, and as earnestly and straight, I had a tie on in my lab coat, and I started to explain that you cannot put molecular hydrogen into a tablet and drink it, because that would be giving you an incredible overdose, because that's 50 milligrams of molecular hydrogen. We all know that the body can only handle 0.016 milligrams of molecular hydrogen a day, and we don't need a tablet because our bodies make molecular hydrogen in the lungs in special cells called the magroclops, and the molecular hydrogen goes down the Grammelopodon channel and then is distributed. You guys are laughing. That's what I wanted. You all to laugh.
You broke Tech.
Now, what happened next?
Can you mute Tech?
What happened next was that without missing a beat, or so it would seem, you had decided that you needed to go ahead and rebut one of your own colleagues regarding alcohol consumption.
Yes.
So you did a video regarding that, about how this has actually helped you in your professional capacity as a professional thinker.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I imagine I'm looking at all these pictures of very intelligent people at the bottom of my screen here, and then
mostly
too. But we all have either read or learned about the theories espoused back in the 19th century by Charles Darwin, The Theories of Natural Selection, how when a population is placed under stress, it is the best adapted that will survive. In that population, the smarter, the quicker, the easily, overcoming that horribleness,
More
will
agile.
survive, but the slow, the dull, the weak will die. Now, one cannot argue the fact that the application of alcohol, ethanol is a dreadful poison, as a matter of fact, to the human body causes an incredible amount of stress to the body, and in particular to the central nervous system. It is a central nervous system depressant. So my position is when I stress my central nervous system with alcohol, it is the slow, the dull, the weak brain cells that will die, but it is the intelligent, the smart, the quick that will survive. So every time I drink, I get just a small amount smarter.
I'm going to start drinking again.
That's probably a good choice. Now,
After this episode, I'm going to have to.
Now, what ended up happening was, hot on the heels of that one, you finally put out the third in your series, which, to be truthful, was probably kind of like the original Star Wars trilogy, not quite as good as the second one, but still fulfilling, and didn't have quite as many walking teddy bears in it. And you brought it all together with, I think, an answer that probably was very truthful, very succinct, and pissed me off to no end, and I'll explain why. What was it that brought it all together, Dr. Conway?
What brought it all together was that I made the video and like, oh, haha, aren't I clever, aren't I funny, ha ha ha, I made a joke. But I was getting a slew of emails from people saying, thank you so much for explaining that. I had no idea that that's how the body worked. And at first it was a couple people I thought, oh, they're going along with the joke. But then after about the 49th or 50th or 51st email, I said, this is getting a little worrisome. So I thought I had to come clean. So I made the video to explain that there are no cells in your lungs called the magroclops. There is no graumelopodon channel. As a matter of fact, the magroclop and the graumelopodon are monsters that you find in the amazing film The Lost Skeleton Returns Again. And that's where I got the names from. I love The Lost Skeleton. It's an amazing set of films there. But I explained in this that basically all of the so-called science I had put forth was crap. And it was crap science because I was trying to use it to rebut even crapper science. So I thought that it would make people happy, but I'm still getting hate mail from people who said that they're upset with me.
Now, here's why I said you pissed me off.
You're one of them.
Yes. Well, there's a reason why I wanted to have you on for exactly this reason. Your third video, I knew the second one was garbage. I knew it. I knew you were just having a good laugh. But then I watched the third video, and I was pissed off because I fell for the first one. I fell hard for it because I didn't check. It sounded kind of weird, but I didn't quite get it. And what pissed me off was that you caught me. You caught me off guard, and I felt dumb and stupid because I, of all people, I should have checked. And here's why it all came together. I expected that because we've known each other as my emails with you proved.
Not in the biblical sense.
No.
It was quiet here.
You just about broke the doctor there, Joseph.
That's good. It basically came down to you are someone that I know, I respect highly, I should add. And I know that you have a very long history of your integrity. And I don't say that lightly. And I trusted in what you had put out, and that trust, it turned out, was misplaced, and intentionally so. Now, I'm not saying this because it's a bad thing. You, in a very safe way, have taught a huge, valuable lesson to a lot of people now, even the ones that are saying that they're upset with you. So that's why I wanted to get you for this. I want to find out from you, what are you seeing from these people now where people are upset and they're all ticked off at you? Why do you think it is that after being told, look, I duped you, and sorry, but the other stuff that you guys are buying into is even worse crap than what I gave you, and I'm at least being honest about it.
Because nobody likes to be made to feel like an idiot. And that's the problem. If I made anybody feel like an idiot, I'm sorry. But I thought it was obvious that, okay, when I showed the slide of the lung tissue and I showed the Graumanopodon channel, and I said it's named after Edwin Grauman, its discoverer, and I had a picture of Edwin Grauman, that picture was not Edwin Grauman, that was P.T. Barnum. I thought that would give it away.
Hey, you overestimate your...
You should have used Gomer Pyle.
Captain Kirk, maybe.
Yes.
I think what tweaked me in the original video was the image of the guy with the Geiger counter.
Larry Blamire.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, he's a colleague of his. He's a lot older. It's a black and white photograph, and what the hell is he doing with the Geiger counter? That was the tip-off that something ain't right. But no, I still, just like Shujin, total hook. I was ready to go after an anti-vaxxer. I was prepped. I was going to go confront an anti-vaxxer, and I would look like a complete flipping idiot. It would have been fun, though. Well, the chances are with those anti-vaxxers laying that explanation on them, they probably would have bought it.
But that's the point.
I know.
They'll buy anything. So if they're not going to buy real science, let's give them the kind of science they will buy, the kind of science they've already been listening to. Yeah. Yes, autism is caused by faulty humidifiers.
Yeah, we know about this one too.
Oh boy, that one.
Disclaimer to those who are paying attention and may not have full cognitive functions, that was a false statement.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I forget.
Yeah. It's really EM radiation from computer thermometers.
Are you sure it's not radiation from your cell phone?
Radioation.
Well, there could be, Deborah. And I can sell you some magic cell phone covers for $55 each.
Yes.
That's a waste of money. Just wrap them in foil.
Well, you can wrap your head in foil.
But it's got to be real tin foil. That's been hydrogenated.
I have this left over from our
my tinfoil hat on. My tinfoil hat will shield me from their mind-controlling rays.
I recently did a show on conspiracy theories, so I still have my hat available. So
hey,
if you like that song, listen to Weird Al Yankovic's Foil song.
I love that song. Foil.
Yep. So to kind of follow through with this now, here's part of the reason why I wanted to talk with you about this one. Yeah, you've gotten good and you've gotten bad on this whole damn thing, but I want to kind of go a little bit side from this. In your professional capacity as a chemist, I got to imagine that you've seen some stuff where a preconceived notion, an expectation, a personal bias has caused problems with experimentation or with reading of data or trying to even come up with an experiment design. How much of a problem has that been for you to overcome personally or with others that you've worked with in a professional capacity?
It's an enormous problem. Every single scientist throughout history has had to face that problem. It is the greatest enemy of the scientist pardon me, this is getting to me here, what we call confirmation bias. We are making our way in a very, very complex, very convoluted, very confusing world. It is very difficult for our rather small human minds to comprehend what is real, what is true, and that frightens us. We are scared of the fact that we cannot understand the world around us. And that fear causes us then to grasp on to answers. Here is the answer. Oh, the answer I've been looking for. This is why. This is what I've been looking for. And we clutch on to that. And then if someone tries to take it away from us, we clutch onto it tighter. This is the phenomenon of confirmation bias. You will seize upon a piece of data that agrees with, that supports what you believe, to the exclusion of everything else. I can show you an entire room full of data that says this is wrong, but you will cover your eyes and say, but I saw a guy on YouTube who said it's right, and therefore it is. Because it's easier on our primitive brains to do that.
So I'm making sure that I leave a little bit of space in case the rest of the crew would like to follow up on anything at any time too, because this one is easy for me to dominate way too much, and I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, and the other thing is, unfortunately, this tendency of confirmation bias is well known, and there are plenty of people like the charming Miss Honeycutt who are willing to provide answers, and it doesn't necessarily matter whether those answers are right or wrong, but they'll provide something.
Yeah, actually, wait a second. Following up on this piece, though, do you recall, Dr. Conway, do you remember roughly how much money we were talking about was involved with those bogus tablets and such?
I do not know, but I can only speculate, because there are dozens of videos out there, people hawking these tablets, and they're no better than Professor Marvelium with his snake oil cart back in the 19th century selling exotic Indian cures. That's all it is. It's crap, it's dreck, it's nonsense. But it gives people hope. It gives people that desire to have the answer. Oh yes, this must be the answer. It is easy. We don't want the complicated world. We want the easy answer. And people flock to that. And that is the bread and butter of the charlatan.
Yeah. It's just the people who... It's just critical thinkers taking advantage of people who have just never learned that ability. That's it. People who depend on other people to survive for them, going back to my introduction.
I'd actually argue that things like these pills are actually far worse than Dr. Marvelim's snake oil. The reason is most of the snake oil recipes out there were about 60 proof at least. So at least
money. So they had a little something going for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. As a matter of fact, that's part of what I was going to come to at this point. Brigid, because you have the medical background, the type of stuff that can be in these bogus pills, and we've seen the reports that came out from New York State, GNC, and all these supplement companies and whatnot, the homeopathic crap. Well, first off, let me give it to you as far as to what has typically been found to be in these supplements.
Oh, goodness, all kinds of things like rat feces and traces of arsenic and all kinds of impurities. Anything but what they're supposed to be selling.
Wait, are we talking about a medical supplement or a New York hot dog?
We're talking about...
just if you listen to George Carlin, he had a few opinions about New York hot dogs.
I'd say New York hot dogs are safer because they're probably actually regulated by the FDA.
And The supplementation industry here is not regulated anything like it is in Canada and the EU. And as far as I know, in the EU, you can't really buy supplements like that, can you?
But don't forget, they dragged it through water that had 1 part per trillion of this chemical molecule over here, and the water has memory.
Well, you're talking about homeopathic remedies. I'm talking about supplementation. A lot of times what you're purchasing is not...
What's the difference?
Well, you're getting a pill form in a supplement or a powder, and a lot of times what it says to be in there is not what's in there, and it's not standardized, and there's really no one checking. You have to see what's
I do want to follow up to what the lady said. If you go to the US FDA website, a lot of these supplements, maybe they might have rat feces in them, maybe they might have arsenic, but some of these supplements actually do work. Specifically, the herbal weight loss remedies. The FDA has tested thousands of these, and they found that these herbal weight loss remedies that are marketed as all natural and totally hippie crunchy granola, they contain an actual drug that had been marketed as a weight loss remedy in the 1970s but was taken off the market because of its toxicity. They also contain large quantities of phenolphthalein, which we used to sell as X-Lax. Lose weight by using an illegal banned substance, as well as making you crap out everything you eat.
Exactly. I ran into a lot of that in the military. Military's kind of strict on, height-weight ratios. So I ran into a lot of guys who were buying up these things. I can't even remember half the names, but these weight loss supplements, and really all they did was A, make you crap a lot, and B, dehydrate the living hell out of you, because most of the weight that you lost was water. It doesn't say you're losing fat. It just says you're losing weight. And what's the main component of pretty much any living organism on this planet, but specifically the human body?
Well, if they're trying to drop 5 pounds a day before weigh-in day, of course they're going to do that.
And you can imagine
diuretics and diarrhea.
You can imagine the kind of effects these had on young individuals, young impressionable individuals who are taking these in 140-degree Iraqi weather.
Yeah, that's going
to be a bad day.
Wearing 60 pounds of body armor and carrying another, between 20 and as much as 100 pounds of gear, ammunition, weaponry, whatever. Trust me, it did not. There's a reason why the majority of injuries suffered by U.S. service members overseas over the last decade have been heat-related and dehydration-related injuries.
Yeah. Now, one other piece about this, Brigid. Some of the supplements that had been tested at one point also came up with stuff that was inert, which is fine enough, but there are also some that had come up with traces, or more than traces, shall we say, of products that people can have an allergic reaction to. What happens if you end up taking these products that you have an allergy to internally, especially with an unregulated amount that nobody knows exactly how much it might be?
Well, if it's ingested and you're highly allergic, you die.
That sounds like a really bad day right there.
It does, and it depends on the manufacturer. A lot of times, especially things that are manufactured overseas, you don't know exactly what's in there, and they're not labeled properly, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's someone who has food allergies and who's related to someone who has even worse food allergies. This is why, at least in my family, we tend to stay away from this kind of garbage because, it's Russian roulette.
It is. It really is, and there are some things that people thought were not harmful, like ephedra, that have since been pulled off the market.
Yeah.
If I may, I was just going to ask Dr. Samuel. I've also heard of things like these bodybuilding supplements that contain steroids and all kinds of other things. have you heard of any other particularly nasty examples of supplements or herbal medicine manufacturers, deliberately including nasty stuff in order to get the products to work?
Oh, only about 50,000 of them. There are hundreds upon hundreds of weight loss remedies that contain illegal amphetamines, is what they are, as well as phenolphthalein. One of the most egregious, as a matter of fact, are these herbal masculinity pills, shall we simply say.
Yes.
Make yourself better at this the natural way. Most of them contain Viagra. It is bootleg Viagra manufactured in China, which is then put into these pills. This person takes this pill, which he's told is a bunch of rose hips and Spanish fly, and it is actually honest to goodness Viagra, and it has the desired effect. So the patient continues to buy more. Now he is taking Viagra, which is a prescription medication which requires a doctor's oversight. And now this person is taking it in an uncontrolled fashion, and, well, he might not have a bad reaction. He might, but that apparently is not the concern of the person hawking the pills.
See, that's why I just stick with the raw oysters.
So what you're saying, doctor, is that I should stick with the ground-up tiger penis?
I am going to hurt you, Joey. Just on principle.
I'm not saying that at all. The ground-up tiger penis, that is a fallacy. Anyone who has taken general porn is the only remedy that has been proven to exist.
It's the brown rhinoceros horn.
But the ground-up tiger penis is just ridiculous.
Excuse me, if I may, that is not
The ball guy again. Hi.
Yes, it is not a fallacy, sir. It is a phallus. There is a difference. I'd like to...
Well, a phallus.
It's a fallacious phallus.
It's a pun.
Yeah. It is. It is.
To anyone that...
One second. Phenolphthalein, I believe, is the term that you would use. For just to be clarifying, especially, I don't recognize the term. What is that one exactly again?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Phenolphthalein was the active ingredient in a laxative that was sold as X-Lax for a number of years. Phenolphthalein was taken out when we discovered that phenolphthalein actually does have a significant toxicity of its own. So phenolphthalein can no longer be sold appropriately as a laxative, but unscrupulous people can throw it into a pill and tell you this is an amazing exotic herb from Bora Bora that is all natural and hippie crunchy granola, and it will make you lose weight. Yes, make you lose weight by making you crap out all your intestines and poisoning you to death.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Happy hippie hyper bullshit.
Just to say, for anyone that takes the dried ground tiger penis remedy, the fresh penis of a live tiger is far more effective, particularly wild ones.
But, my dear boy, you must remember that the way the market works, most of those are not actually tiger penis. Those are actually penises of Chinese laborers. They are selling them as genuine tiger penis, but they are actually Chinese laborer penis.
You can tell the difference because the lack of spines.
No, there's
not have spines.
There's a Chinese market.
So, Susan,
not too
you have
far from where I
experience
live,
with these, I take it.
and now I'm never going there again.
And,
See,
yeah.
we had touched on something like this in previous weeks when we were discussing the early 1900s and the radium craze.
Yes.
It's this thing where people don't know about it because it's this new thing. It's kind of like the what is the acai berry? It's the it was acai berry of the early 1900s, and people wonder, well, it's just a little supplement. What kind of harm could it possibly do? May I direct you to the story of one Eben Byers who drank bottle after bottle of this radium water and ended up having his jaw fall off.
Yes. May I draw your attention to what they called the Radium Girls?
Exactly.
These young ladies who dealt
That
with
was on television.
heat, and their jaws fell off, and to this day, their bodies have been exhumed for examination. Their bones are still highly radioactive.
Jeez.
So, yes.
For the viewers, I'll just share a nice image here of someone who swears.
Oh, yes. The surf man.
This is the colloidal silver man.
That's
Yes.
the one.
Did he really turn blue, or did somebody paint him?
No, that's
No, he-
genuine.
Oh, my boy.
He really turned that color.
Good
He
Lord.
That is the result of the deposit of silver in the fatty tissue in the subcutaneous layers. Silver goes there, and silver salts have an interesting habit of darkening on exposure to light. The silver builds up in your subcutaneous tissue, and you turn blue, and people giggle at you and call you Papa Smurf.
Yes,
I
you,
just
you, learn by,
think anybody was that dumb to consume that much silver.
you learn by personal experience just how early photographs worked.
Yeah.
Now, I want to correct something that the very handsome bearded gentleman just said. I'm going to establish this right now. The people who fall for this are not dumb. Let us get that into our heads. There's a great difference between dumb and misguided. Look at the number of very intelligent people who believed my video that I put out there, which was so full of flaming bullshit, but these very intelligent, highly educated people believed it because it was cast at them in just the right way. So, let us not put down people who believe these things for being dumb. Let us remind ourselves they are simply misguided. It is the job of those of us who study science to try to guide them.
If I can be pedantic, I'd like, if you could say trust instead of belief there, I think it would make a lot more sense.
You are
Well,
correct.
not sense, but I mean, you know, people are trusting of science in a way that they should be questioning everything, and they're not.
It
Yeah,
falls
this
into the same branch as lawyers and political commentators. It's all about the spin.
Yeah.
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 Now, there's an expression that I've used time and time and time and time again when I've dealt with people regarding a sincerely held belief, specifically religious, but it falls under this purview also. You were taught wrong. And that's not a failing on the individual, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a failing on the person who has been teaching incorrectly. Now, the reason why this was so important to me, Dr. Conway, I mean, your point was to, well, let's face it, fight bullshit with bullshit.
Yes.
And eventually to make it be, as the expression goes, a teaching moment for people to actually look at it all and go, wow, damn, okay, okay, you got me. Well, I learned something new today. And forgive me, I'm assuming that was your intent.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I was not, no, you are correct. My intent, after I realized people had believed that video, it occurred to me that I had unwittingly become that which I despise. The person out there who gives you this wonderful set of apparent facts and uses your charisma and big words and sciencey sounding things to make you believe it. So I wanted the third video to be something of an educational video itself. You believed me, and I misled you. This happens all the time. This is how pseudoscience works. They get a, drop-dead handsome guy who's well-spoken and has a lab coat and a degree, and he gets up there and says sciencey sounding things.
Or you.
Yeah.
Or me, yes. But it was meant to be a cautionary tale, if nothing else. I wanted people to ask questions. When someone comes to them and says, "Here's the easy answer. Here's the magic pill," I don't want them to take the pill and swallow it. I want them to get a second opinion.
Yep.
Well,
And that's, yeah, go ahead.
Look at all the people that believe Dr. Oz and his
Sorry,
We just had our first trigger moment on the show.
Yeah.
Triggered me. Miss.
Sorry, folks. Trigger warning. We're mentioning
warning.
fraudsters.
And it's like green coffee bean crap and all the other bullshit that he peddles on that show.
I
And
can't believe they let him
and,
back
like,
on the air.
I remember years ago, like when he first came on, and it was all like, "Oh, look at this amazing doctor, and he's so incredible, and he knows all this, stuff that everybody needs to know." And I never paid that much attention to him because I'm not a cable person, but
Okay.
then he gets busted, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Awful.
Did you see when he got called up in front of the United States?
Yes.
That made me happy in my pants.
Watching that guy squirm at the congressional hearing, well, that was a thing of beauty.
Okay.
I touched myself that night.
Okay, two things.
TMI.
One, yes, it's Deadpool weekend, so that we're gonna give that one a pass. Two, don't say bullshit. We really should say bullshit on the show, so appreciate that.
Bullshit.
Stuff.
Appreciate that. And actually leading right into this is from the question and answer system, Renee, who past host on the show. Thank you, and you got it exactly right, exactly where I wanted to get at this point. And she writes in the Q&A, quote, "In all seriousness, there is a reason why we should always, if possible, do our own research, even when a, quote, trusted authority, unquote, is telling us something. Check references, double and cross and triple check. Ignorance can only be fixed by knowledge." This is the summation of exactly what we're trying to talk about tonight.
Well,
It's so easy to just fall into exactly what you're talking about, Dr. Conway. You're a trusted individual by a lot of people, and I'm not saying it is a bad thing. You intentionally misled because you knew that you could, and with good reason, and for good purpose. Now, before I let you rebut on that one, Joey, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, not entirely true. Ignorance can be fixed by knowledge, but it can also be fixed by death.
Yes.
But that's a rather permanent fix to a temporary issue.
Indeed.
Well, both are. I mean, let's be perfectly frank. I mean, Dallin, you know full well the strategic use of the clue by four is always wonderful to use with certain people that don't want to listen to you.
Yeah, but there is a level of judiciousness, if you will, that you really should be applying that particular device. It's a bit of a judgment call when you're going to use it, I would say.
Yep, and that's why. Yeah, well, yes, there is always that the ever-present LART. Some people know what that is, and some of you have not worked tech support before, and count yourselves lucky.
I feel bad. I was actually going to get a couple of clue by fours made, like actual, like the real thing, get the word burned into it and everything like that.
Nice.
Well, no, I used to work for a company that manufactured really good office furniture, and a lot of good hardwood was around. And I was going to get a couple of them made, just on a custom deal. Yeah, the place shut down last December, so I guess it's not going to happen. Yeah, believe it or not, Dr. Conway, 45-year-old company, dead in 3 with a new CEO.
Wow.
Not surprising. Not surprising.
Yeah, it was a heartbreaker because that was the first job I got when I graduated out of college, as I was their IT administrator. And I've moved on to bigger and better, but I always kind of cast a backward glance at these guys, see how they were doing. And when I got the news, I was just like, wow. Just because I'd known all those people there, it was a heartbreaker. I'll admit it. But what can you do?
Yeah.
You can find yourself a good woodworker, like just a private person. That's not a huge job.
Well, funny you should mention that. One of the guys I work with at my new job, he moonlights building decks for people.
See, I bet all you need is somebody with like a carving ability or does pyrograph or something like that.
Yeah, well, he's got all that in spades. I would just have to supply him with the hardwood of choice, which I'm still working on.
Aha.
Right. So there's a piece about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris, real quick.
I'm going to say if I just move this back to the topic, just that sort of a personal experience following up from what Dr. Conway was saying about these people. I worked with someone early last year who was a really smart guy, a bit out there, but he really had his head screwed on, and he came into work one day asking to do a charity fundraiser for someone who needed to fly over to the US to get medical treatment that wasn't available on the NHS, and immediately alarm bells started ringing in my head, because I thought, if the treatment's not available on the NHS, there's probably a reason it's not.
Yeah.
And so I got the name of the clinic they went to, and it wasn't the Basinski clinic, but it wasn't far off. It was full of bleach injections, peroxide injections, homeopathy, electromagnetic healing, and
Stop it, you're hurting me.
yeah, every kind of woo, and a lot of it was downright dangerous stuff, and I tried several times. I gave him links to articles. I spoke to him at length a couple of times, and although we were friends, we'd only known each other a couple of months at this point, and I just couldn't get through to him that how dangerous this kind of thing was. The diagnosis was also chronic Lyme disease, which will probably trigger Dr. Conway again, which is a condition that is almost certainly a misdiagnosis of something else. And if you've misdiagnosed a problem, you're not going to be supplying the right treatment, even if the treatments you were providing weren't complete bullshit. And it was really saddening to see that people I knew were donating money to basically have someone conned and put at risk.
Yeah, that's a piece that I wanted to get into also, the money factor. There is so little... forgive me, I do need to hit you specifically on this one, Dr. Conway, because you've experienced it firsthand. The truism of the statement, there is no real money in research for research's sake.
No, there's not.
And yet, for all of this... I'm hoping somebody doesn't catch this shit. The bullshit costs people so much money and rakes in so much for the individuals that are peddling this garbage. And that's the nicest way I can put. Oh, you know what? Let's not even worry about the money factor for a couple of seconds. Heretic woman,
Yes.
11-year-old girl, who.
Michaela Salt.
Dr. Conway, are you at all familiar with this young lady?
I can't say that I am.
Heretic woman?
She was a 11-year-old girl with some type of leukemia, but she was First Nations, but her family were also religious fanatics, and they parlayed an exemption for First Nations consideration into taking her to some woo crap for this leukemia treatment because she didn't like chemo. It was too hard. And I mean, she had something like an 80-95% chance of completely surviving this. And because of their First Nations designation, they were able to swing it through the government. And the girl died at 11 years old because her family wanted to do the Jesus woo crap instead of real medicine.
Now, please forgive me for putting you into this highly uncomfortable position because of this all. You have dealings with a large number of people in various different capacities. Some who are quite a bit younger, some who are learning their way through a lot of different things. You have been an educator on many levels. The price tag for this kind of ignorance for a life, that has got to be, for you especially, knowing what you know and knowing how you've tried to help people and teach people, that has got to be simply unconscionable for people to follow through with.
Unconscionable, yes. However, I'm an educator. I'm not a lawman, and I'm not a dictator. I can attempt to show people the truth, or at least the truth as science understands it. If they choose to go another direction, I can't do anything about it, and I cannot suffer from guilt for the rest of my life for not forcing them to take a different route. I'm imagining there's a number of people whose pictures I see down here. There was a television series some years ago called Babylon 5.
Yes.
Some of you may be familiar with it.
Oh, yes.
It covered a lot of issues similar to this. Babylon 5 was a space station that drew in cultures from all over the universe. There was one episode that hit very, very close to home for me, where
they cut open the little boy's body?
Bingo.
Yeah.
And an alien family showed up. Their son was very, very ill, and the doctor was not familiar with the physiology of this alien family, but with a little bit of research, he found out, oh, it's a very simple operation. I can save him. But the family's religious beliefs prevented him from cutting into the body. And he pleaded with them throughout the entire episode, it's a minor surgery, just let me take it out. And they would not allow him to do it. And it was a rather painful episode.
Well, what was worse is how it ended, is that he ended up going through with the surgery anyway, because he allowed his vow to save lives to overrule their religious beliefs.
Yes.
Because of their religious beliefs, they felt that since his body had been cut open, his soul was gone, and what was left behind was basically a husk that was taken over by an evil entity, and they killed their own child.
To save him.
Yes. Now, if you look at different areas of the world, there have been many articles about parents killing their children because they were possessed.
Yep.
Or look at, and from medical controversy point of view, look at Jehovah's Witnesses and blood transfusions. Kind of the same thing.
And what's worse with that is they can't even do it with their own blood. They can't have their own blood leave their body and come back in, let alone somebody else's.
Once it's out, it's out.
You know, and I've gone toe-to-toe with an actual Jehovah's Witness on this, and they knew that I was more of a scientific type person. I'll never call myself a scientist because I'm not, but they tried to throw scientific justification at me for why they don't allow blood transfusions, and they were going possible biological contamination. I mean, they ran the gamut.
And that's all after the fact reasoning. Because I mean, the central issue and all this behavior around this, it's about the implantation of the soul concept.
Yeah.
And for people who have been indoctrinated this way, I mean, that is equal to life itself, especially for the young human brain. It doesn't know how to process it. So in their minds, if they don't follow the rules, they're as good as dead. and it's that fear. I mean, it's really fear that motivates their behavior, and like any explanation they give, you know, it's after the fact. They just have to. They've got a set of rules to follow. Otherwise, they're going to lose their eternal life, and that's it.
And if you don't follow their rules, you're going to lose your eternal life too, even though you may not believe it.
Yep.
It's just another bargaining chip, unfortunately. There's a piece that I want to see about having the panel finish out with, because I know that your time at this point is going to be very limited, unfortunately, and thank you very much.
Is empty.
Almost.
Oh, almost empty. Okay.
I have one question though.
Yes, please.
Oh, you want me to ask them now? Okay. Sure. Dr. Conway, I'm interested in your reaction when we were talking about the gravitational wave discovery. You said somebody suggested there was going to be a Nobel Prize in it, and you had quite a reaction to that.
Yeah, it's been done. The man who came up with the theory originally, well, I think he already got one, didn't he? I don't like to give people Nobel Prizes for taking somebody else's theory and saying, yep, I agree with it.
Oh, okay.
I think...
I thought this was more along the lines of 100 years, however long ago it was, the theory was come up with and even mathematically shown to be, okay, sure. But this is the first time we've actually had equipment that was designed and implemented that actually said, yeah, they're there. We can detect them now.
Yeah, we've got the equipment that confirms it, but nothing's really been discovered. We've only just confirmed that which was discovered mathematically all that time ago.
Okay, see, I was looking at it from a different viewpoint. I was looking at it as a viewpoint of an award for the engineering aspect of it.
I have a bit of... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go on. I was going to say, I could accept the award for the engineering aspect of it, but...
Is that a Nobel category?
Not really, no. My personal feeling is that the Nobel Prize is for people who have advanced the field of science.
That makes sense.
Not confirmed it.
Yes, not confirmed it, exactly.
Well, in a way... I try to see in things in different lights all the time. Sometimes that makes for me getting confused. Sometimes it makes for me having interesting points of view. In a way, I do see that as a form of advancing the field, because now we had something that, okay, it was an idea, it was a concept, then it was a mathematical proof, and now we have where not only did they go through all the different variations of equipment that they had to make, to get to this point, which who knows what advances will be brought off of that, but they have the equipment to go, yes, now that we know we can detect it and on the right path, we can make more advanced stuff, which will eventually lead to other advances and other discoveries. So we had the proof, but now we have the engineering aspect and what that could lead to.
I'd like to see the other advances first.
What I'd like to say is, for me, I've seen people crying out, saying that there should be a Nobel Prize in this. I've not looked through the great deal of detail on this yet, but this only came out, earlier this week?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is far too early on there. We've got these measurements that are suggesting that there's these black holes doing their thing.
It's a displacement
and the gravitational waves. But this result needs to be verified. Further tests need to be done. We need
See,
to
that I wholly agree with. I believe it's way too early to hand out awards.
Yeah, and science will go through the process of doing that.
All right, that indeed. But our friend in France had a point to make, and I'm afraid I cut him off. I'd like to hear his point, though.
Oh, my point. But
serial killer, yes, you.
I kind of lost my trace there. Yeah, I was. It's actually what Chris said. I was a bit worried about one, jumping the gun, And actually going back to something that you had to say earlier, confirmation bias, because there's a lot of people there pushing a little hard to confirm Einstein. I don't know why we're going to the holy grail of, they're trying to almost justify after the fact. But yeah, I don't want to go into the details, but basically their instruments have shown a displacement in space-time, but the part about the gravity part. Anyways, there's still questions to be answered. It's too early to make conclusions and attribute Nobel Prizes.
I would agree, but it's been interesting to hear what's been yelled out so far at this point. And Dr. Conway, like I said, I see you over there with your glass full of a mixture of 72% nitrogen. Yes, it's almost there. So. I
have about 10 minutes left of consumption, my boy.
In that case, we'll see what we can get for you for the floor at this point. You put out your videos. You crafted these with the intention of ultimately teaching. As someone who is, to the best of my knowledge, not primarily an educator, how would you like people to better educate themselves, to better prevent them from being duped, or even better, to learn how to learn, I guess might be one of the better ways, because that's one of the more esoteric questions.
My dear fellow, if I had the answer to that question, I would have the Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I'm very, very keenly aware of. I tell people, do your research. Let's look at molecular hydrogen, all right? The Molecular Hydrogen Institute. It sounds very sciencey. I know that it's a load of crap, but the average person out there who perhaps does not have the same educational background as I do, how are they to know that? If one were to go immediately this moment to Google and do a search for molecular hydrogen, the first 30 or 40 hits are all these people who are crowing, oh, it's the most amazing cure-all since cure-alls were invented. How is the average person, if you'll forgive me using that term, to know who to believe? As I said in the video, do you believe me? Or do you believe the other guy in the lab coat? I have the education to fish through all those Google hits and throw out the Institute of Molecular Hydrogen and zero in on the National Institute of Molecular this and that, and zero in on Harvard University and look at NIST and say, National Library of Medicine. That I can trust. But I cannot educate your run-of-the-mill American, there we have it, into what they should believe and what they should not. And this is what pisses me off about the pseudoscientists out there. It is the charlatan, the mountebank, that has muddied the waters, that has made people so confused. There was a time when the people could simply turn to the learned scholar and say, what is the truth? Now there's a lot of people out there wearing lab coats.
This is why I promote cite your sources. I mean, for everything. I mean, even for the local story about, the fireman saving the local puppy. If you cite your sources, then you're a trustworthy source.
Okay.
And if people would take that practice, then it'd be a bit simpler to differentiate between the craft.
Here's one. A very minor bit of live science. I'll test here. I've just done a Google search for molecular hydrogen, and this is highlighting something that's very important to remember if you're trying to do your own research, is that Google will learn your search preferences, what kind of articles you look for. So I've got...
I turned that off.
The first result, a sales advert for molecular hydrogen tablets, followed by Molecular Hydrogen Foundation, which is almost certainly another woo-woo click. Then I've got articles from Science Direct regarding medical studies of hydrogen gas.
Some of these are from 2011.
Yeah. Articles from National Institutes of Health. On there, I've got Wikipedia entries on molecular hydrogen. And
look at the related searches: molecular hydrogen supplement, health benefit, tablets, formula, weight, definition.
All those related searches, I've got those. But this is because Google knows that I search for science articles and scholarly articles a lot.
Yeah, but this is the first time I've searched for this.
If I was someone that had been searching for herbal supplements and homeopathy and other kinds of things, the results would be almost certainly massively different.
Now, if I can, I see where you're going with this, but
I can make research harder.
I can tell you that Google is working in the direction of making its results more prioritizing truth over truthiness, because they are working in that direction.
That's good.
So,
and that's the problem that you run into with a lot of the web searches is the first ones that pop up are going to be the ones that paid to be the ones that wanted to be shown first. That's as a graphic designer, I am aware that this is how the whole advertising campaign works for even small companies peddling, one product.
Well, and you also have in the background, you have several consultants that I used to get these ads a lot for SEO, search engine optimization.
Most of it's
sites like this, they go to these consultants to make sure that they are within the top 5 or top 10 of the hits on Google or any other search engine.
I'm paid a lot for that.
I would like to ask. There's a young lady down there. I was not introduced to her. I apologize. The lady with the medical background. I wonder, would she be able to offer anything, any wisdom? If your run-of-the-mill Joe Sixpack were to look for these things, what should that person look for?
As far as looking for things that are accurate?
Yeah, not to put you on the spot, but I just want to know what your thoughts are.
Oh, goodness. The first thing that I would look for is a reliable source such as, at National Institute of Health, something like that. There is a lot of truth as to what Chris was saying, that the results are going to be optimized depending on your search habits. I mean, some people do pay to be in the top 5 or whatever, but the top, top 100 hits or so are going to be based on your search history. So if you look at a lot of woo, you're going to be selectively filtered towards, woo.
Okay.
Are there any specific bodies that would be best to search in, like for instance, if I'm looking for something to do with psychology, I might go to the American Psychological Association to search for information.
Scholarly articles.
Yeah, PubMed is a really good source to go to.
Okay.
I'd say PubMed is really good. A lot of the articles are buried behind paywalls, so if you're not accessing it from like an academic institution, you only get a selection of it, but you can generally get a summary. Another trick on Google is after your search term, just do a space and then put .edu, .educational, then you'll get articles mainly from universities that are legit.
Or the other way around, put in your search term and follow it with the word hoax or fraud.
For fallacy.
Yeah.
For those of us who are articulate.
I have to extend 2 personal thanks. One to George Carlin. Because he endorsed me a lot about seeking out the bullshit. I'm not going to pull punches.
Say that.
It's okay.
I can.
Too late.
Yeah,
My mother has to go to my high school science teacher. And forgive me, I can't remember her name. It's been too many years, too many hits upside the head.
Oh, you bastard.
I know. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
Dude,
But
this man died more
she-
times than Jesus, you know. So I mean,
she had brought into class one day a pamphlet that she handed out. And it was a pamphlet on the dangers of dihydrogen monoxide.
Oh, stop
love
it.
that.
That was.
I know.
Love it.
We're talking about my high school years here.
Yeah.
But it was my first real lesson in the art of woo. And I cannot thank her enough for that.
you can think about it. Remember,
There's one thing about this, and all this is, there's one thing we're not talking about, is that these guys are managing to convince you that you have a problem that you don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that, and we'll see if we can round table to finish off
And
of
that's
that.
a human behavior. Well, anyways, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, Dr. Conway has finished his drink, which means we do have to say goodnight for him and thank him for his time. Real quickly before I have you go, I just want to have you address one particular item. The idea that homeopathic water would contain memories. I do believe, however, sir, that the vast majority of wine has water, and it has sucked out most of your memories from the times that you've consumed mass quantities of it. Would this be accurate a statement, sir?
Yes.
Good enough. I've shaken this guy's hand at least once a year for like the past 3 years. You have no idea who I am, do you?
You are Garrison Keeler. I know that face. I've heard you on the Prairie Home Companion. You're amazing. I'm
Yes.
the things we're learning today here, folks.
How's it?
Oh boy! Remember, this is being recorded.
Yeah. Please tell us how are things going in Lake Lake. Where have we gone?
No, if I remember that name, I'm actually I'm going off with that one next week.
Okay. Homeopathy. I'm going to get a glass of water. I'm going to get a glass of water at the tap. The tap's right over there. I'm going to get a glass of water. That water contains homeopathic quantities of every single remedy ever devised by man. So if the theory of homeopathy was true, all I have to do is drink water from the tap, and I'll be healthy.
For the rest of your life.
Well, we should ask people in Michigan whether or not that's working out for them.
You beat me to it. You beat me to it.
Wait, was that too soon? Was that too soon?
Snap.
Just a little bit too soon. Anyway, Dr. Conway, on behalf of the panel, I would like to thank you so very kindly for your time this evening. If you want to refill your drink and finish, that would be fine. However, I do not think that that's very likely in the tap or the bottle at the moment, but that's okay. So,
well, the bottle is empty, but if I were to fill it with water, I'd then have a homeopathic quantity of sake.
You would.
Yeah, you
technically, because
Actually, it would probably be a lot stronger than the shit you get in the mail.
Oh, it
And
would.
there's a very possible chance that you'd have just a few molecules of Napoleon's poop in there, too.
Ah,
You may not want to drink that then, because you better stop breathing, because you might be breathing the air that was in Hitler's lungs.
Actually, on a homeopathic sense, I am. Because it's very late at night and I'm an old guy and my glass is empty. But I want to thank everyone for having me on the show tonight. It was amazing to meet all of you. You're a fantastic group of folks.
it's fun.
And,
Thank you.
maybe we can do this again sometime.
I would be quite honored.
I'd love it.
What kind of contact information would you like to put out for anyone to contact you further if they'd like to speak with you, contact you in any way?
Oh, well, if they want to talk science, I made that Gmail account, SamuelConwayPhD@gmail.com. It's the same one that the YouTube channel is built off of.
Okay.
All right, I'll make sure that is out there for you. In the meantime, on behalf of the panel, I am grateful for your time, sir. And again, with any luck, maybe we'll have the opportunity of having you back again sometime to talk about something that is much in your wheelhouse. because you've been a wonderful, wonderful guest. We've actually had at least one person who has said that, let's see, what was it that was put?
What a wonderful guest. I do believe I love this man, quote unquote.
Yes, from Katie.
Yes.
So
that's our Katie.
And the other one was never just trust someone because they're a scientist.
Well, it would be my honor and pleasure to do this again.
It was
I
fun.
might be off now. I'm not accustomed to these Google Hangout things. How exactly do I make?
Like
just
that.
I do believe that was his way.
setup.
Yes.
Son of a bitch.
That's hilarious. I love it.
Cheers, good sir.
Yes. So, thank you, Dr. Conway, and fuck you too.
Yeah. He's the guy. I do believe he's the guy around whom the phrase "well played, sir" was developed.
I do believe.
I mean, let's face it; those 3 videos and plus what he just did is like, yeah, it's like reel in, and then that's it.
He's one of the few people I can say is just going to bug me for the rest of whatever. That's just fine. You know.
That was brilliant.
I can't wait till June now.
So, all right, the piece that was left over at this point that we should probably go ahead and address. Joseph has gone ahead and stepped away now. So that's great timing. Thank you so much.
He'll go get his croissant.
I was just thinking that it's croissant time.
It's cafe croissant time.
Yes,
See, in Europe, it's tea and biscuits. In the France, it's croissant and a cigarette.
That could be that too. Yes.
No,
Oh
he
no,
quit.
he quit
That's
last
right.
week.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, right. Like really, sure, he quit.
No, he did. He's been off for a week, as far as I know.
That would explain why he's such a pain in the ass this week. That's perfectly. You know, he's not here right now. So he doesn't know anything. Unless all of a sudden it comes off of mute and he goes, "I heard that."
He may well do that too. I don't know. It depends if he had to run to the gents or something.
Something like that. All right, so
Just remember, this Valentine's Day, don't become a parent. Wear a condom.
well, that's fine. That's not quite what I was going to
You probably wouldn't become a parent until Veterans Day. No, not 9 months at all.
There is an incubation time there.
Yeah, if you're a parent on Valentine's Day, you did something a long time ago that economy make it to save your ass.
You know, according to many politicians in like Kentucky and other states, you know, life begins at conception.
Or preconception in this particular case. That'd be the case.
And then you know what? There's a great
means
big
every
boat
time they
down there that's
masturbate,
supposed to fit all the animals in the world.
So
Well, I'm going to go kill about 1 million potential lives tonight.
And the PMI flag is down.
So where do we finish off with this in seriousness?
Usually in a sock.
Preconceived with all that we've ended up talking about, there are people who are taking you for a ride because they want to make a quick buck, and they really don't care. I'm wondering. You know what? Let me do it easy. Where would you guys like to finish? I mean, we've still got a little bit of time yet before we have to close up shop. But I mean, where do you guys want to? What question have I missed at this point? I guess is where I want to go.
Well, one thing that Joseph hit on earlier when we got off on the tangent about the gravitational waves being detected, and he had mentioned something about wanting to prove Einstein or wanting to sort of be in line with Einstein, and it kind of goes with that preconceived notion that Dr. Conway was talking about before, which plagues scientists. You know, they go in with the thought of how something's going to be, and then they're absolutely crushed when they find out that it's something else. But I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing.
They shouldn't feel crushed.
Well, no, like we've got the whole thing about standing on the shoulders of giants. We've talked about this before. You know, the best example I can use right now is Newton. In his time, no, I'm just saying, like, just hear me out. He took things on gravity and stuff, he took it as far as he could with the technology he had at the time. And then it was left to a further generation to start with his stuff as the basis, and then using the technology they had at their time to move it forward. But they still had to point the compass in Newton's direction first before they could move on and either correct or disprove some of his own claims.
Science is a game of connect the dots. I mean,
No,
you can't
I realize that. But, and so what I'm saying is, like, now people are standing on Einstein's shoulders. They have to.
A giant, well, you can stand on the shoulders of giants, but you can also cut them off at the ankles.
Well, I'm saying you can stand on the shoulders, but you can end up looking in a different direction than they were.
Sure.
Is all I'm saying. But you have to be standing on those shoulders first. So,
and past scientists, there's one popular misconception is that past science discoveries, they're not wrong per se. They're never wrong because within their framework, they're right. But basically, what we're doing, it's like a Russian doll thing. You've got a discovery, and then you've got something bigger around it.
And as far as
that's kind of where I was going with it. Is that just because maybe you prove one of the titans of science to be incorrect in one of their theories, you shouldn't discount the fact that that person was still a titan of science at his or her time.
Well, exactly.
Oh,
for example, Einstein and even Hawking's feelings toward Newton. Newton had some great ideas. Not all of them were correct, but that far from demerits the work he has done. And they still sing his praises. I mean, given the time.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And Newton was never guilty of stating as fact, because what's been disproved is the hypothesis, hypothesi that he had at the time. It's not what he demonstrated still stands.
It's weird. I wouldn't normally, actually, in this case, use the word disprove. I'd say the ideas have been improved on, and there's a deeper level of understanding reached. With the technology and the data available at the time, his model is outstandingly accurate on there, and we've got better models today.
That's what I meant by frame.
We only actually really need to use relativity in fairly extreme situations, or to further understanding of the universe, like with the gravitational wave experiments, which I'm going to be really interested to see more developments on as it goes forward.
I just wanted to add on to that, by the way, really quickly, that as far as to cutting scientists off at the ankles also, speaking as the resident tribble of the group, no, you gnaw through the Achilles tendon. That's the most accurate way of doing it.
Yeah.
But that's just because
I would save that for the pseudoscientists, though.
I'd also like to say people really don't like it when I ask to get on their shoulders. I'm just saying. I had to give that up many years ago.
There was one thing that Lawrence Krauss said a couple of years ago that kind of, stuck with me. That if you are a good scientist and you have integrity and you find something like this, you want other scientists to try to prove you wrong.
That's what I meant by cutting off at the ankles. It's that's not the goal. It's just it's a possibility you have to accept.
But you want them to try really hard to disprove and find holes with what you came up with. That's the only way that you can be sure that what you came up with is legitimate.
And that's what religious people don't understand, is that they're working so hard to prove science wrong, while science is already doing everything within its means to prove itself wrong. So
right.
Yeah, and that whole sort of condemnation they have, like, ooh, science changes all the time, therefore it's untrustworthy. I'm like, no, the fact that it changes all the time is why we want to.
It's a reflection of our world, because science is everywhere, and the world, which is part of everywhere, just so you know, is constantly changing.
Well, here's my point to that. If a religious person is saying that, well, science is always changing, therefore it's wrong, then why are they espousing this on a computer using, an i7 processor, gigabytes of RAM, on a pipe internet connection?
And the answer to that does not compute, ironically, because it doesn't enter into the survival advice they were given by their handlers. I mean, it doesn't. It's not on the map. That's it.
So
nothing to say.
So how to make a zealot short circuit, Chapter 1. That was the last time they upgraded their computer.
You know what? How about this one? And I'm not talking as the host at the moment. I'm talking as one of the hosts, not the lead at the moment. What about this one? How about sundials? Sundials should be good enough for everybody if science shouldn't be changing itself. I mean, why would you need a Casio 1984 watch with an infrared remote control on it? And
forget about sundial. It's just the sun is directly above me. I guess it's time to eat.
Yeah, thank you, Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah.
Now, I do hope that Dr. Conway is still watching.
Oh, I doubt it. I think he's passed out by this point.
But I was smacking myself in the head earlier, and it's because it wasn't until he left that it finally came to my memory. Miss Laura Voorhees, not Voorhees, was my...
I'm sure he needed to know that.
Well, he was breaking my ball about it, so...
No, for anybody that's wondering, no, don't bother writing in. He spoke accurately. Shut up. You're welcome.
I kind of figured that.
No.
It's this. I am so glad of the years that I was in high school, because it was the same time that MacGyver was on the air. And no, I had a chemistry teacher.
Mom jeans and a pompadour.
Well, who also watched MacGyver.
See, I had Semaphore MacGruber.
Oh yeah, there were days that he would actually try to help us recreate some of the things that he saw in MacGyver the night before. I learned a lot about blowing stuff up. I was in love with chemistry at that point.
For a kid, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a pity that my university professors weren't borderline pyromaniacs either. Otherwise,
go back and watch it now as an adult.
Oh yeah, but there was one. He did a blowtorch out of metal filings and something else. We actually did recreate that. We recreated that in the lab. It was actually kind of fun to watch.
Acid and zinc, or acid and
our personal favorite was mixing Javex and Saniflush toilet bowl cleaner in a bowl. That creates mustard gas.
Eek.
Yeah. Of course, we did this one under a fume hood. When my teacher did it back in the day, they decided, the more the merrier. They didn't have fume hoods. They had to evacuate the school and call in the fire department because they had actually flooded most of the school with mustard gas.
Oh, that reminds me. We had somebody break a mercury thermometer in chemistry class once. That was fun.
Okay.
Okay, actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Brigid, mustard gas or those kinds of noxious chemicals and whatnot, what level of bad would we be talking about, considering?
Very, very, very bad. It would come in and it would blister your skin. It would burn your lungs, your nasal passages. Very, very painful. Extremely painful.
I mean,
yeah.
This chemical was one of the reasons why they developed the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
I apologize. My thing froze up there for a moment, so I missed what was said. Did we mention the scarring and blistering along the esophagus and lungs?
Yeah, I mean, horrible. Just.
You know what? This is okay. This is actually a good place for us to close up shop with.
How?
You'll see. What we've ended up dealing with in kind of meshing together, if you will, preconceived notions but a level of ignorance that goes along with this. And both can be cured by learning about something.
Or death.
Or death. Here's where I want to close. Yes.
Yeah, I think we're going around an issue too, because I mean it has to do with people making, instead of relying on other humans, deciding things for themselves. I mean, it's making a comparison for themselves between what other people say and reality. You have to have both in your head at the same time.
You know what? You got me in the right spot. Thank you. This is not where I was thinking about going, but you've actually got me in the right spot. Here's where I want us to close out with. How do we make it easier? How do we make it better? How do we make it more accessible for people to be able to do exactly that, to learn properly, to ask the right questions, to better confirm or to debunk the shit that ends up coming down the pike towards them? And I know that I'm kind of harping on a piece that I ended up with a couple of episodes ago, but it's the only way I can think of putting this, because I've gone through half a 750 ml bottle of wine. That's not bad right now.
Yeah, I've gone through 4 beers, so.
Yeah, well, beers. I mean, it's piss water over here anyway. Isn't that right, Alan? It's piss water down here? Beer?
Yeah.
Shut up, Trouble.
I mean,
there you go.
I love.
Don't make me take you to church.
Yeah. I love Dr. Conway's approach, or the more generally, like the reductio ad absurdum kind of approach, where you put out something that is complete bullshit, but that's similar enough to some of the crap that's out there in the world. The problem is there is so much nonsense out in the world, particularly in, as we've touched on earlier in the show, the alternative medicines field, that literally it's a challenge to try and make up anything more bizarre or bullshit that is valuable enough as a teaching point, without running the risk that people will actually believe it completely.
If there was a consensus on trusted sources, then that would make research work a lot easier. Because, I mean, like, for example, people rely on Snopes for debunking stuff. But,
I mean, it's generally fairly good.
And I'm just $3 in a man costume.
Yeah, and I'll admit I'm guilty of using Snopes a lot, and typically with good reason.
What's it to be guilty about?
Has Snopes investigated the Holocaust yet? Because there's a bunch of countries saying the Holocaust never happened. Countries.
I think those countries never happened.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. Plus, let's face it, I think that investigating the Holocaust might be a little bit outside of Snopes.
Well, we have gravity waves that we can detect now, so maybe they could just ask those guys.
Yeah, budgets. It's all about budgets. For those of you that are ornithologists, no, I did not say budgies. Budgets.
No,
some of you actually know what
Snopes on a lot of occasions to debunk. Well, there have been a couple of Facebook posts that I've seen where I'm watching, like it's somebody I know who posted it, and then I see a whole crap ton of comments. And everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, getting out the pitchforks and the torches and the axes and the broom handles.
What I know.
Yeah. And then I look at it and go, okay, I Snopes it, and then I go back and I go, ... And then I point them to the article saying, y'all got taken. And I've killed a few conversations doing that, and I'm actually proud of it.
Yeah, good on you. You know what? Yeah, Chris.
Although I did have one guy, I Snopes something that he did it was a righteous indignation claim to do with money, and I found an article, I found the Snopes thing that countered it, and then he tried to strawman me. It was glorious.
No, wait.
Yeah, Chris.
Say it in your T.J. Miller voice. It was glorious.
That's not a TJ Miller voice.
Close as I can come.
Let me go watch Deadpool tomorrow, and I'll see if I can get the voice again.
No, he did that. He said that in Big Hero 6.
I know, but it's still him, so I'll just see, if I can get the nuances down,
Yeah.
What did Dr. Conway call me again? I want to remember that name for next week.
You know what, we'll find it. We'll find it for you in a second.
Wait a minute, I can fix it in post.
Yeah, you can.
You have a rewind.
Motherfucker!
Dallin?
Yes, sir. What the hell is that?
That was a Garrison Keeler.
Yeah, listen to the guy on there. He does a radio show called the Prairie Home Companion, which is
Oh dear God.
It's a home companion for prairie goers?
Something like that. At least he used to be. He's since retired recently, but
Forcibly or death?
No. He's been doing it for a long time. That's all.
Gotcha.
My glasses aren't round, okay? They're rectangular. Look a thing like that guy, do I? Is it the receding hairline? What is it?
I think it's the receding age, actually. That's got everything to do with it.
Get off my lawn.
You're welcome. All right, Heretic Woman, real quickly.
Yes.
Because I think that this is a perfect example of how do we make it easier for somebody. What did you do to Bible Barbie?
Well, as soon as she said, that's not in the Bible, about 4 people whipped out their smartphones with their Bible apps and promptly proved her wrong. And that's because we had the actual, facts at our fingertips. And she was just going by her general feeling of what her religion was. She never obviously looked into it. So yes, we shamed her rather badly in public.
And that hurts, but that's also a viable alternative, but you did it because you had the facts on your side.
Exactly. And also, Bobby did that to the street preacher in Hickory. The street preachers, I forget what the passage was, but Bobby and Bill had brought up, it was Bobby and Matthew the Apostle. They had brought up a certain passage in the Bible, and of course, Mr. Street Preacher, that's not in the Bible, and okay. And they called him, his name was Gene. They called him Gene the preaching machine. And they said, okay, Gene, you go back to your car and you get your Bible, because we don't want you thinking that we've got some jacked up atheist Bible. You go to your car and you get your Bible. And they actually made him go to the verse, and he actually proved himself wrong, because they made him. So that was a beautiful thing as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Joey, let me get you too. Try to get people to be able to understand this stuff easier, make it more accessible, that it's almost irrefutable for them. What do you think is one of the better ways, or to the best of your knowledge, other than physical trauma?
Well, I'm going to draw the ire of many a parent, but also of all the critics of most high school teachers and of one Bill Nye. Make it fun.
Ooh.
For Bill Nye, for years, made it fun and interesting for kids to learn about, science that beforehand you would have sat through a high school class and just fallen asleep. And you see more and more of this bleeding into, high school classrooms of today, It might seem like a kooky and wacky project. Sorry.
Mr. Wizard, too.
Yeah, but Richard Feynman, I grew up with him. I mean, that's
Take it away, Paul.
Just like just looking at the guy, you can see his animation, his enthusiasm for it, and he really finds it interesting. That's contagious. It's not just a dry litany of facts like school teaches us nowadays. I mean, this stuff is fascinating. This has to be the fascinating part of it is, I mean, just discovering the world around you. I mean, it's just amazing. And people have to look at it that way. It's not a requirement. It's a challenge.
Yep.
Now, I'm not talking about, the 1950s, your own nuclear reactor kit, but, like when I was real young, my mom got me a terrarium. Didn't have anything to put in it. I was the kind of kid that spent a lot of his time in the backyard, doing things that usually pissed my mother off.
Didn't we all?
But, there's a reason why, quite a few of the folks I know, sorry, Renee, don't like spiders at all. And, at a very young age, I came to terms where, no, I never really got super scared of spiders and such. I mean, I was the kind of kid who loved those blow-up books, if you know what I'm talking about. The ones that, say, took the Titanic and literally cross-sectioned it piece by piece and showed you every little bit of what went on in it. And, I would always check out those books from, the Titanic to, spiders and arachnids. And yeah, I was your typical nerd. I was somewhere between your typical young nerd and your typical young, boy who just was gross.
Some would say you haven't changed a bit.
Except now I know many ways. Except now I know many ways to break you.
Well, some rich person made the Titanic too.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit afterwards. But Tex, since I've got the camera on you anyway. What do you think? I mean, that sounds a really great one to me, and I'm actually going to use that in a minute.
Joey grew up with Bill Nye. I grew up watching Mr. Wizard when I was little, and while the gentleman that ran the show, Mr. Wizard, was calm, cool, and collected. He wasn't jumping all over the screens like, wow, look at this, and putting all this energy into it. He was very methodical. He explained why things happen and everything else. He still made it interesting. He still made it fun, just on a different level. And between that and Beekman's World on the weekends, yeah, I was a Beekman kid later on. It was very exciting. It really was. And I was very lucky that the science teachers that I had growing up, because I grew up in New York, they tried to make it fun too at every level. Now, granted, there were some experiments or some things that we were learning that I'd kind of yawn through, but I did my homework. I studied my books so that we could get to the really interesting stuff. And I don't remember having any truly boring science classes. And when I hear about other kids who are like, oh, science, it's like, what's wrong? Why are you so bored with science? Are you just reading a book? Are you just doing homework? Get your hands dirty like Joe did. You go in your own backyard, dig up a pile of dirt and put it under a microscope. Go look at the bugs on the leaves through a magnifying glass. Look at the little parts of their bodies that move. Sure, okay, fine. Don't touch them if you don't want to. You don't have to. And if that kind of stuff doesn't interest you, find out the stuff that you like to do. Whether it's go on Twitter or Facebook, and break it down and see how it works. And keep asking questions until you get to the base of okay, this makes this go here and this makes this go there. Just keep asking questions.
Right where we are. Brigid, what do you think? I mean, you had to deal with a lot of years of medical training. So for you, how do you think that it's to help people to better understand where we've got our expertise, or better yet, where we've got the ability, and I'm not using the right terminology for it, to better vet out this shit. Bullshit. I'm sorry, can't say shit. Bullshit. Can't say bullshit either. Fuck. I mean, shut up.
Yeah. Dallon's gonna fix that post, right?
Dallon will fix it, right?
Wow. What a question. I was actually kind of late getting on the science train. As a child, I was naturally, drawn towards science and experiments and things like that, but that was kind of beaten out of me. And this is really depressing, but I wanted to be an astronaut when I grew up.
No, that's not depressing.
But in 4th grade, I was told girls can't be astronauts, and so there went that. I'm at that age where, at the time, girls couldn't be, and I didn't know any better. Killed that dream. But I didn't really find out how science actually worked until I went to nursing school in my mid to late 20s, because I came from a fundy background. So that was a huge shock. But after I saw what was out there, I was like a kid in a candy store. I mean, I was just like, all of this knowledge, all of this stuff. I think the best thing that we could do for kids, I think most kids are natural scientists. They want to know about the world, and they like to experiment and go, I wonder what this does. And I think we should encourage that.
Yeah. A great one would be to watch Neil deGrasse Tyson's video that he put up about his kids.
I mean, even at 2 or 3 years old, they want to see, what effect things have on other things, and I think we should encourage that.
So what you're saying is the easiest way to promote the advancement of knowledge and discovery is to not destroy the dreams of children everywhere.
Don't destroy the dreams of children, and don't shield them from science.
Don't shun the curiosity.
Yeah, don't squash the curiosity, and don't try so hard to shield them from the knowledge. That's touching on what Shijin was talking about as far as like tasting from the tree of knowledge. The whole Garden of Eden story. That tree was kept from me all through my childhood because of my schooling.
Oh goodness.
Sorry to go there, but anyway, I went.
No, it's okay. Actually, I wanna. You know what? I'll wait until we're off the air, because I wanna kind of stroke my ego just a little bit afterwards. It's
okay.
It's
Is
not
that what you're calling it now?
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Because it's not something that Dallin can fix and post.
Oh goodness.
Shut up a minute.
There are some things that just can't be fixed.
They've already reproduced.
Silence. I've had my kid already. I could be.
I already had a kid too.
You're welcome. I didn't. I'm not even sure who didn't I get yet to specifically talk on theirs.
Chris.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So,
I was going to say,
Heretic woman.
for me, growing up, it was a fascination with science fiction, looking at people's ideas of what the world could be in 50, 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years' time, or what people's ideas of 50 years ago of what the world would look like today. Jetpacks and flying cars and stuff, and I'm still hacked off. I've not got my jetpack, right? But along with that, with some real science, it was a fascination with nature. I grew up in a rural area, spent a lot of time outside, and also people like David Attenborough. The books and series of things of Gerald Durrell as well. Just looking at the way the animals and plants work, how systems of predators and prey work together, to affect each other in the area where they live, and how birds' beaks are adapted for certain seeds, or beetles for eating this, that, and the other. It was just amazing how complex and beautiful nature is, and so I just started reading more about that. I was also fascinated with sort of legends and stories and around astronomy, some of the old sort of Greek myths, and things there, and that led to a lot of interest in astronomy and what the constellations and the stars and the planets actually are. And it's, I think, as has been said already, kids are often fascinated with these things. Sometimes they're particularly fascinated by the gruesome and the macabre, and
The icky.
and the icky, definitely. And it's and because they don't have the prejudices that or the distaste that adults have learned for certain things. But I don't think you should stifle that. If you can channel that curiosity into learning and exploring the world, you're only going to make them a better person in future.
That's the thing. Everybody assumes. Sorry. Everybody assumes that we lose that curiosity and that fascination as we get older. That's not true. It might get a little bit harder to tap into now and then, but that's just the increased cynicism that we begin to learn as adults. You never really lose it. I mean, I still have those awe and wonder moments that I had as a kid peering through a telescope. A great example. You can. Oh, geez, I can't believe I'm bringing this up. Some of you may be aware, depending on your propensity for internet content and video games, of a young man by the name of Markiplier.
Yep.
He played a game called,
Oh, potato!
No, he kind of showcased a game called Universe. What was it? Universe Factory or Universe Sandbox? Universe Sandbox, and his expressions during that playthrough were every bit as childlike as you could expect, and you can't even say it in a way that would defame him in any way. It was wonderful. Wonderful to the point that somebody actually took it, and the same way that Melody Sheep had made a auto-tuned remix of Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Richard Dawkins and everybody else, somebody actually auto-tuned a remix of it, and it's just, I still have it stuck in my head.
Yep, I will most assuredly make sure that is linked in the show notes, because that was a glorious moment, and that one definitely needs. If I thought about it ahead, if we had time ahead of time, I might have actually gotten in touch with him to find out if we could have added it as like the closing song. Maybe we'll see about that sometime.
We could always talk about video games.
Do that, but Heretic Woman, I think you're pulling cleanup at this point.
Yeah, so I'm not a science person at all, but the closest that I kind of got to that would have been Star Trek, of course. Grew up watching the first run reruns of the original series, so close to the original.
Yeah, you and me both.
But one show that I did enjoy outside of Star Trek that I still remember, well, actually there was a couple, but one in particular, and Dallin, you might remember this. Joseph didn't get to watch much TV, but Science International. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
Oh, Joseph Campanella and
T.U. Leak. I always remember her.
Yes.
I always remember her name because my 8-year-old self was going, "What the hell kind of name is that?" But yeah, and what really stuck out for me was I remember seeing because if anybody didn't know, that it was like a weekly show where they would highlight things to do with science. So it was kind of like a talk show kind of thing, or news magazine, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, that'd be the best way to describe it.
And I remember seeing stories as a little kid of things like solar-powered cars and going, and they would say, you know, this is going to solve the energy crisis and this is going to be the future. And then I remember thinking, you know, years later, like when I got into high school, like whatever the hell happened to those like amazing inventions that were going to, you know, be everywhere and all that. I'm like, why don't we have solar powered cars yet? Yeah. Like that was
just
that
electric
really,
highways. That is like so,
you know,
thank you.
There was one.
Well, anyways,
the Arctic Woman. There was one that they did show that I that sticks in my head. It had to do with 18-wheelers, like particular flatbed trailers, and there was something about reducing drag or increasing fuel efficiency by, on the back end of the flatbed, lifting one set of wheels up.
Right.
Yeah. Now, okay, it sounded good. No lie. 2 weeks later, I saw a flatbed trailer with those wheels elevated, and I went, wait a minute! It was just like, oh my God, it's that thing at work. Like it was incredible.
Yeah. And the other
tire wear
show,
or something they do it.
Yeah.
The other show I used to like, which was, it was a weird one because it was sort of half like actual science and half woo. But remember, That's Incredible.
Oh.
Yeah.
That show was so 70s, even though it was in the 80s.
I know, but I loved it. But it, like I said, it was sort of like half actual science and half like hardcore woo. Yeah. Like there was even an episode where they did a ghost hunt like years before ghost hunting was even a thing. So yeah, but yeah, Science International, man, Joseph Campanella and
what will they think of next?
Yes, that was an
the old tagline.
Yeah, what will they think of next?
Yeah, they were doing a ghost hunt at my current employer a couple of months ago.
Oh dear.
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer, around Halloween time. We're working it's an old industrial building that's been up for a couple of 100 years. So there's like a floor that's not used anymore. So people were going to be going up, paying a decent amount of money to be going up there, spending most of the night wandering around. While someone makes inappropriate use of an electrical stud finder.
Yep.
I have to make a comment.
Isn't the web for that?
I have to make a comment.
Tinder.
I have to make a comment about a particular set of words you used there. A old industrial building that hasn't been used in a couple hundred years.
No, it's been standing for a couple of 100 years.
Or standing for a couple hundred years.
It's been used for a couple hundred years.
Only in friggin' Britain does that group of words work.
Yep.
Well, no, there's also Czechoslovakia, but that's no, sorry, scratch that. Poland. That's where I was thinking the wrong place. Poland.
Bohemia.
Right, because there's there a couple of years ago. What the hell was his name? There's an artist that I know, Gray. Damn it, I can't remember what his name is. But for Independence Day for the United States, he did this really great picture where it's America is celebrating happy joy day, birthday, congratulations, 230 whatever, 200 and some odd years or whatever it is, and it's got the picture of Poland all wrapped up in his flag. It's just like year 1275 or whatever the hell it is, and it's just like, you know what, that's nice, little kid. It's like, damn it.
Our little boys growing up.
Yeah, the great experiment. So really, I'll actually make this one really quickly as far as my closing remarks. I did not grow up on Mr. Wizard. I knew he was on Nickelodeon back in the day because they had given him a rebooted series.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he did everything from the robot to all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. One of the experiments that I remember him doing was talking about on that new series at the time, global warming and the polar ice caps. And his thing was he was not worried about the sea levels rising. And his experiment was he filled up a glass with ice cubes to a certain degree and then topped it with water so that it domed at the top. And they put a light over it. And it's just like, okay, so let's come back tomorrow and we'll see what happens. They came, they saw fade back in. The ice is melted. The water is there and it's still domed over the top. And his point was the water is still here. It's still the same amount of water. Nothing's going to have changed. Well, his preconceived notion with this experiment was that the temperature was just going to take care of the ice and that's it. But as we know now, a piece that he was missing was if the water heats up more, it's going to expand. It would overdrip the sides, which is what we are already seeing with the oceans here. It's a piece we didn't know about before, and that's a piece of ignorance that changes how we think of how things are supposed to be and are going to be. That sets up our preconceived notions. That's where the problem is. That's where learning is. I did not grow up on, like I said, Mr. Wizard, and I was not a Beekman. I was not a Bill Nye guy. I was a Beekman guy. Paul Zaloom. That was his name. You remember, if you watch Beekman, you remember at times he would go, bada bing, bada bang, Zaloom. That was his last name, Paul Zaloom. He's somebody that I want to have on the show in the near future. Believe it or not. Yes, I'm announcing this when I'm doing the whole the babe over there in the house that Ruth built, and I'm pointing over to the stands. I'm saying, yes, I want him on the show because I want him on this MF show to talk about this in the future. He made it fun. Yes, there was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on. Yes, a whole bunch of people can look at it and go, it's an ADD fest. But you know what? Bullshit. Okay, fine.
Too late.
It was fun. Yes, there was a lot of fun stuff that was going on. Yes, there was a lot of entertaining stuff that was going on. But did you miss the part where I said it was entertaining?
Oh, God, it was highly entertaining.
It played into the stereotypes of stuff that we grew up with the Warner Brothers cartoons, with sound effects, with stuff that was going on kind of off camera where you go, oh, really? Okay, fine. And back to it. The third and a half wall breaks is the only way I can really describe it. But he made it fun to learn, to be a scientist. And this is where I'm going to say, specifically for Dallin, you're not a scientist? Bullshit! And I'll tell you why. Every time you go out there on the street, every time you walk one block over in the city, in Calgary, all right, it's not exactly a city, whatever, it's a bunch of huts, whatever the fuck. You go out there, you walk across a lane of traffic, you walk on a one-way street, do you look only the one way where traffic is going to be coming? Bullshit, you look both ways. Why? Because you never know the one time you don't check that somebody didn't pay attention to the sign. You check.
There was a one guy in the Corvette a few years ago, but yeah, you're right.
You check, you look, you don't take it for granted. You are going to investigate reality every opportunity you can. And why? Because it could be life or death. But you don't think of it in those terms. You think of it as, it's just a normal reaction. It's muscle memory. Look, okay, go. Kids learn because that's what they do. They don't know. They learn. They look around. They put stuff in their mouth. They stick their finger in the light socket. My wife, when she was a year and a half, 2 years old, she took and she remembered this into her adulthood. She took a fork and she put it into the light socket, and she remembered, at a year and a half, 2 years old, she remembered this because of what happened to her. She survived it. She didn't have any ill effects, fortunately. Well, she married me. But she learned, and she never forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And
I stuck a coin in. I went and attempted to stick a coin in a light socket as a little boy, but my parents intervened and stopped me. However, I did get a lesson out of it when my father bent me over his knee and swaddled my behind with his bare hand, and I couldn't sit down for a little while.
See,
And it was then explained to me why he had done it. That's the important part. See, he didn't just punish me. He explained it later on after
You should
all
have done that
the tensions.
before.
It was a reaction. It was an emotional reaction. But the thing was
So
is that
he's got some things to explain to himself.
the thing is that he explained to me that I could have died. And I ended up associating that little bit of pain as a striking example of what he was willing to do to ensure that I never forgot that lesson.
Yeah, Joey, really quickly.
well, you see, my stepdad, and I love my stepdad, but his method was, if we were going to do something that was dangerous but not terribly so, he'd just let us do it. And then as we're sitting there in shock and awe of what just happened, he looked down at us and say, well, do you feel stupid? You look stupid. You gonna do that again?
So here's why I wanted to specifically, and forgive me for using the term hammer on that so many times in so many ways, because there is a group, there is an institution that is out there that is intentionally trying to completely undermine the scientific process, the trying to undermine societally that people should learn stuff because they call themselves, and I have to admit, I've forgotten off the top of my head who it was that pointed this out on a podcast, but it's accurate. How many discoveries have come out of the institute known as the Discovery Institute? How many papers? How many announcements? How many times have they shown off, we have conducted an experiment and we have shown it to be accurate and compartmentalizes shit, what's the right word? What's the word I'm looking for? Damn it, I've forgotten what the right word is. Changing words. That confirms reality as we know it through experimentation, through proof. Not, you know what? I'm gonna say it, and this is not the alcohol talking. This is my vitriol talking. Not a fucking one. And I'm sure that if I would have Michael Marshall on here, he would absolutely say, you know what? That's about as good a word as any. And only because I can hear him in my head for this one, not because I want him on. That's a different issue. I can hear him from the times where he talked about the 1023 campaign, getting freaking homeopathy out of everything because it's been shown to be bullshit. Nurture somebody. Doesn't matter who they are, what age they're at, what language, what level of education. If they've got a question and it's about reality, if it's about life, if it's about how something operates, what the hell is wrong with you that you would tell them no? You don't need to know. Am I talking about specifically teaching kids about science or about life? No. I'm talking about all of us. There are people who graduate from college with their Bachelor of Arts diploma in their 90s because they never stopped wanting to learn. You should never stop wanting to learn, because, to use somebody else's line, when you do, that's when you've died. As always, thank you for taking the time to be with us for this show. We hope that you have enjoyed all of our perspectives, and most assuredly, we're going to keep putting them out there because we still think that there's something worthwhile in what we've got to say. And my apologies for the buzzing that's going on through the audio right now. My phone is apparently buzzing because of something going on. Don't know. My apologies.
It's tech, actually.
Oh, I see his dropped off.
Connection died.
Yeah, he lost his internet.
Okay, so we'll see what happens. In that case, in case he doesn't show up, I will thank everybody on his behalf for being here for the show. He typically does not have anything to plug, but if it does turn out to be something, I'll make sure that it's in the show notes for you. Also, on behalf of the crew, I would like to again thank Dr. Samuel Conway for being with us. All of his contact information and the links to those videos are in the show notes, and you'll be able to contact him. I'm sure that he would be more than happy to discuss stuff with you. And please be aware he is, however, a professional scientist. Some of his time at different times of the year does get to be very limited. So if for some reason he is not able to get in touch with you directly, just please be patient. He is a very, very generous person with his time. So I want to thank the crew for being with us tonight. Of course, as always, Joseph, thank you so kindly. You have yourself a great morning, and of course, plug all of the things. Otherwise, I'm just going to have Heretic Woman do it for you, and you know how she is a bitch about that.
She will do it anyways. Atheist Apocalypse at Atheist Apocalypse. I always want to say that like Sylvester the Cat. At atheistapocalypse.com. Yeah, I am a character on there. So, yeah, tune in, especially for next season. That's about it.
Just because you are a character doesn't mean you have character.
I am not in total agreement with you, sir.
Thank you, Inspector Clouseau. Chief Inspector. That's right, Chief.
No, that was Fabrice Le Chevalier you were talking to.
I'm sorry. See, I've learned something new tonight.
And you haven't listened to the show.
No, I have not. And okay. To be fair, there are a number of podcasts that I've had to cut down on simply because of the amount of time and the stuff that I want to catch, and I'm not going to name them at this point because I don't want to make anybody feel bad. Atheist Apocalypse at this point is not one that is currently in my rotation because of time constraints. I apologize, but there's only a certain amount of earhole I've got.
That's fine. But we are releasing an episode on Monday, just so you know.
Cool. All right, Chris, thank you, of course. You have yourself a great morning. Knowing full well that the book is still in the plug rotation on the show notes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's been great to be here again. Great to meet Dr. Conway. One thing I was going to plug is this week is over here for anyone UK-based. The Good Thinking Society are, which Michael Marshall's is, to a large extent, I'm trying to get people to complete a survey by Wirral, NHS, CCG, on their funding of homeopathy, because the homeopaths and their supporters are no doubt arranging for massive input on that. But basically, it's another area where funding is being reviewed with hopefully a view to getting it dropped. And so if you check out the Good Thinking Society's webpage, there'll be links on there to exactly what's going on.
And sure, we'll get the link in the show notes also to help that along.
Mm.
Okay, Joey, thank you very much for your time, of course, and go ahead and explain the graphic for all those that are just listening in.
Of course. It's been fun, and the graphic, of course, is the same one that I've put up a couple of times before, but never a more appropriate time than now. I'm not going to explain the graphic itself. You can look it up. All I have to say is some men just want to watch the world learn.
It's true enough. Brigid, thank you very kindly for your time, and I'm expecting that there's nothing special to plug other than the usual.
No, come see me at my blog, Between the Wheels, and the address is brigidfitch2112 at .wordpress.com.
We've got that in the show notes for you. Hedrick Woman, thank you so much for your time, of course, as always. Have a good, hopefully a warmer morning, a little bit.
Okay, so it was minus 21 when we started the show. It is now minus 25. So, yeah.
I've got words, so I'm not going to use them. Go ahead and plug other things.
So, there's Beyond the Trailer Park, a YouTube channel. We are having a show every Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow we have a good show lined up. We are having as a guest Chris Rada, who is an author who specializes in debunking the likes of David Barton, the history revisionist.
I love her.
She has 2 books out right now, Liars for Jesus Volume 1 and Liars for Jesus Volume 2, which deals specifically on how Barton and his cronies like to twist history and make it seem like you folks live in a, quote, Christian nation. So he twists things from the founding fathers and all of that. So that she's kind of made it her life's work to debunk these people. So we're going to talk to her, and it's going to be pretty awesome. So yeah. And that's tomorrow at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, Beyond the Trailer Park. Yay.
We'll have all that. Yeah, and by the way, just because I pulled it up, for you, yep, I show it as minus 25. For me, it's minus 18. And here's where it gets to be completely uncomfortable. Dallin, because you're the closest one out there, Yellowknife right now is at minus 16. There is no justice in this world. Thank you for your time.
No.
Stay warm out there over in Calgary, which currently shows
+3.
Mother of... I know, you bastard.
I can't say it. I can't.
I said it before we started the show when he was like, it's what was it, +6 then or something?
+7, yeah.
Yeah, and I said some nasty things.
Yeah. Okay, look, Alias, we can go on about the weather here. We can go on about, how maybe I've got it a little bit better than some. But as per your request, Shujin, I did look up Alice Springs. 39.
Yep.
I'll take it.
So all your arguments against me are invalid, okay?
Yeah, for those of you that don't do real measurements in temperature, 39 Celsius, if I remember correctly, is going to come out to approximately 104 Fahrenheit. Or, oh my god, my skin is crawling Kelvin. Okay?
I lived in Mexico for a month when it was between 37 and 40 for the entire time, and I loved it.
That's only because it takes so much longer for the heat waves to reach you through the atmosphere because you're so short.
Well, okay.
Yeah, but I by that time.
But I did go up a mountain and was still comfortable, but,
Since a lot of the heat is coming up from the ground.
You know what? You're not helping me.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to drop some science.
Please, by all means, feel free to email it. Dallin, fix it in post. It's good.
The only place you can claim that most of the heat's coming from the ground is Iceland.
Yeah.
It's reflected radiation from the ground that heats the air near the ground. I think it's weird. But 39, that's scary because that's getting to the point where it's not survivable, like another degree or two. if you're outside.
No.
That's cute.
No.
Human body
what?
temperature is 39. If you start going above that, you can't cool on there, and it's only 41, 42 degrees that you have to raise your temperature to, and you drop dead.
That would only apply if you were buried until your neck.
No, even outside in an air temperature. I mean, it will take a couple of hours.
Guys,
I've been walked around
guys,
40 degrees for
guys,
longer.
Guys,
Yes.
we can talk with the medical expert about this after.
Okay.
Good night, Dallin.
Good night.
You can cut out that whole 5 minutes right there, right?
I probably could, yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna though, are you?
Hell no. Look, it's not the fact that I'm trying to, preserve the integrity of the show, so that the audio podcast listener gets the same experience as the YouTube listener. It's the fact that I'm an absolute lazy bastard. Okay.
And he's been ill
And
on
the show
top of
wouldn't be
that.
the show without it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And
It-
yeah, I'm
That
just glad
makes
that you're
him.
much better.
That makes him a sick, lazy bastard, right?
I'm getting bad.
Yeah. There we
Sorry,
go.
Chris.
Or it could be worse. We could just reference him as a stick cushion. I don't know that that's such a good idea.
Oh,
He's gonna hurt.
yeah,
He's gonna hurt me. A couple months from now, you're gonna hurt me, ain't you?
Well, I don't know. At this rate, at the rate the
Maybe.
bruising is not clearing up that well, you could probably just give me a little push on the gut, and I'd probably fall over.
I don't think that's such a good idea. We'll have to see about that. Anyway, we need to get our asses on it. Yeah, we need to get our asses on out of here. And like I said, I had half a 750 ml bottle. Normally, I would make a bunch of references to a whole bunch of things. Tech, are you actually there? Tech is trying to get back over on, and his connection has been crapping out. Yes, no?
Yeah.
He has to pass out at least once on the show. He hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, well,
In the outside chat, he said something that begins with F and Comcast.
fire
Yeah, I
truck.
kind of figured he got Comcasted there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think he's actually there.
Yeah, it's not getting anything back from him. So, really quickly, if you'd like to find out a little bit more about the show, if you'd like to get to the podcast link or the email or all of the links to all the pieces for the show, take a swing over to holycrapthevlogcast.com. I'm having a little bit of an interesting time trying to get to it, but that's another thing for later. The voicemail line, if you'd like to utilize that, is 859-HCTV-554, 859-4288-554, and you can find the show on all the social media links from over there. I will, since I had mentioned at the top of the show, I will make an unregulated plug for the wine that I have. Every once in a while I do have some of this. This is from Woodbury Vineyards here in New York State, just outside of Fredonia, New York. And some of you, yes, hail, hail Fredonia. Thank you, Groucho. This is the Niagara white wine. This was the stuff that my wife and I used to drink together because we loved this stuff. You do not need to be a snob about wine. What we learned from the wine tasting was the following truism. If you like it, it's good wine.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. So, with all that out of the way, I'm going to be getting myself out of here quickly, unfortunately. But in the near future, we're going to be changing that portion a little bit, but I'll tell you about that probably in 2 weeks. Meantime, as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. Thanks for being with us. And, of course, for my wife, Matane Fujin, I love you and I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.